Welcome, everybody. My name is Simon Head. I am the director of Subversives, the history of low of the low. This interview is the Art Bergmann interview that was done on September 24th of 2021. I flew on a plane, landed in Calgary, and I wasn't even sure if this was actually going to happen. Drove up to this farmland, and you could see the cityscape of Calgary from when you looked south. I knocked on the door. Art came out. He was in his pajamas. He said, "I need to go get some beer." I said, "Sure, no problem." So we went back in his place. I was waiting. 20 minutes goes by, and there's no Art. He is still in his house. I knocked on the door, and I said, "Art, what's going on?" He goes, "Oh, sorry, I forgot you were here." So this is the full interview. You can't really hear me talking in the background because I'm kind of far away from where he is. And at that point, I only really had one microphone. So Art talks about art and art. I think it's a pretty cool capture of a person like Art who had just won Order of Canada at that point. And, Art was an amazing interview. So, you can still rent the documentary on Apple TV. You can rent it on YouTube. Subversives, the history of low to the low. You can purchase it on Amazon, on Blu-ray, if that's the thing that tickles your fancy. Tune in, subscribe. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy my full interview with Art Bergmann. We'll see you next time.
Talk to me. Talk to me a little bit.
Hello.
Talk to me, hello. Talk to me, hello. The problems at hand. Talk to me. Did you spill your beer?
Yeah, I got my beer. No, I just...
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
Here's your first lesson in arson.
Throw it in the grass and watch it burn.
Do not smoke in the grass. You'll be caught.
Okay.
What's your last name?
Head.
Where'd you get that name?
My parents.
Yeah. Weird, hey?
English. Yeah, it's British.
My name is Germanic, of course.
They say we came like 5 generations over from Germany over to England. That's what they said.
Oh, so your name was Kopf.
Maybe.
Maybe.
So it is.
Are we going to do the whole boring thing right here?
We do some of it.
Or are you going to edit it?
Well, I'm not gonna. Yeah, obviously I'm gonna take the answers, but this isn't boring. This is a very active shot.
Okay.
I got grass blowing in the foreground.
I got a rocking chair.
I got a rocking chair. I got this old building in the background. This is art.
Excellent. Excellent. And look what you got back there. You got a perfect sky.
Beautiful.
Before the cloud disappears, right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, thank you so much, by the way. Really appreciate it.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, you did all the work, man.
Well,
Flying's work.
long's work. It is.
Yeah, what was it like? Do you have to show a passport or something?
No, that was the weird thing. No passport. I flew, I got on the plane, I showed my ID, and that was it.
So your ID must have a link to...
I have no idea what they
Yeah. Hey? Crazy.
But I got on the plane, and this is nothing to do with the interview, but it was like a sense of like, oh wow, this is happening.
Yeah, yeah.
This is good, very positive.
Is this your first bit you're
No,
doing?
this is the first time getting on a plane and flying to another town to
Oh, yeah.
talk to somebody, which is a feeling of legitimacy that I
Yeah.
can't describe.
So the later history of the low, I'm not familiar with. They got back together, right?
They did in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
They did, yeah.
Then did they have another fight?
Well, they did when Steve left, I think. Steve left 2012, I think, or
Uh,
15.
but he left before that.
Yeah,
They
he
had
left
a
again. Yeah,
when I recorded that album, they were fighting apparently at the time, and
they were fighting constantly in those days.
yeah,
There was like a
there was a. I didn't know the ins and outs of it, but they were pure gentlemen to come in and stand beside each other and sing on that record for me.
yeah, yeah. Can you just you remember meeting Ron for the first time?
Um, yeah, probably in no, I can't. No, Vancouver would it have been? They were on tour coming out. We all went out to see them. Had a great time. Probably the Town Pump in Vancouver in Gastown.
Hmm.
They're an awesome live band.
Was that the first time you heard their music, or were you familiar with their music beforehand?
I was familiar with a few of the tracks. They were playing even on God knows what radio. Probably I saw them on Much Music first, maybe.
Yeah, they did
Or,
much videos. They have one video on Shakespeare My Butt.
yeah, Shakespeare by Butt. And then it reminded me of the way Mo Berg and Pursuit of Happiness came out of the woodwork just by doing street video, right? And they were obviously a street band, and they hung around Vancouver. We had the same manager for a minute, Frank Wipeout. So Freaky Wipeout was his nickname, by the way.
I'm gonna go talk to him tomorrow.
Oh, hey, he over talks. He won't stop talking.
I like that part. Makes it easier for me.
Uh, it can get sleepy.
What was his nickname? Would you Sleepy
Freaky Wipeout.
Freaky Wipeout?
He's an old hippie.
Yeah.
Old hippie. I had first met him in Winnipeg, actually.
Yeah.
We were stuck there for a week, and we played. The old hotel there the only place that took punk bands.
I lived there. I should
St.
know.
Charles. St.
Yeah.
Charles.
St. Charles. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had a woman that worked there. She had a concentration camp's tattoo on her arm, and she was severely PTSD from the whole thing. I'm sure of it, from the Holocaust. And people make fun of her. It was obnoxious. She wanted us to stay in our rooms after 11, and for a punk band on the road, this is hard to put up with. We tried to express sympathy with her, but such was that journey. But it was good to know her. Maria. Her name was Maria. No, I'll never forget her.
So, how can you relate to Ron's songwriting? Like, how? Because I know there's a lot of parallels with your politics with you and Ron, but songwriting. How can you associate yourself in him or see him in you? Is there a? I feel like there's a parallel sometimes.
Well, there's a parallel in expressing your politics in your songs and telling a story that matches up with the politics and explains the politics and why he was such a radical to begin with. But he has the gift of melody and songwriting, so that helps a lot. Both him and I could detect the cross-hatching of definitely being influenced by someone like Elvis Costello, that kind of delivery, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they came up in the early '90s, and you came up sort of in the mid '70s, late '70s, right? Was that sort of the time frame?
Late 70s, yeah.
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 So did you notice the shift in the music scene, like from like the late '80s into the early '90s? Because there was one, but did you feel? Were you part of it? Did you feel like you were witnessing it? What was your sort of understanding of the whole that part of the scene?
We'll have to be a bit more specific.
Sorry. Music went from like hair metal
Oh, hair metal.
into like
Hair
grunge.
metal took off again. Bubblegum metal took off again. It was like no scene taken off ever. It was like playing shitty bars all over again, all over the country. and fighting to get your enough money to make a record, or getting ripped off by someone making a record and taking all the money. It was a tough go all through the 80s. I mean, I had moved on like from three-chord absolute trash punk, which which young Canadians we were the best at, because apparently we knew how to play our instruments, and that was looked down upon apparently at the time. So that was another mark against us. But we had a hardcore, fan base. And are we talking about me or Ron?
You. Well, just the scene, the music, how the music changed from like pop gun metal,
Yeah.
bubblegum metal into grunge. Like the scene just went changed like almost overnight in the 90s.
Well, I think all the kids that grew up on post Pistols, post punk, all realized they could make their own bands and make their own sounds and put out their own ideas, and it was glorious in that sense. It was creatively, yeah, you couldn't beat it. I mean, everybody was putting out amazing songs and records, and that was the good part of it. And then hooking up with record companies because of that was probably the biggest mistake of my life.
Yeah. That's the segue between major label and independent labels or independent music.
Yeah,
Like, um, a lot of people labels came looking for the new sound, which was the sound that was sort of not the new sound. But
yeah.
how did you
They,
feel like you got wound up in that whole idea? Because
well, they never have a clue, right? But the thing was our sound is I knew how to play it. I knew how to write songs, and I knew harmony, and I knew how to play guitar. And people were, of course, mixed in with that was the theme of our music, as Tony from the Dills used to say, "Scathe and indict, scathe and indict."
um, so it was. Were you in the States a lot, like in that time, or were you mostly Canadian based?
Oh, not enough. At first, we had this manager who went ho for us. He worked for Periscope, and he gave us tours up and down the West Coast. We got, played with Dead Kennedys, Black Flag, all up and down the West Coast, 78, 79, 80. It was a great time, to play the famous Mabuhay Gardens in San Francisco, down to Madame Wong's in LA. It was, but you got to keep that stuff up. You just can't give it up in mid poverty.
It was tough back then for Canadians to make an impact, even though there was a strong Canadian influence. A lot of people were rejecting Canada to try to fit into America. That's just my feels like that way sometimes. That
Rejecting what part of Canada?
Canadian, whatever the part of Canadian
Well, the part
Canada.
of Canada that wouldn't hire you, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Except for one man in the middle of Canada was our saving grace for cross Canada tours, and that was Frank in Thunder Bay, who had an awful pizza place,
Crocs and rolls.
Crocs and Rolls. Yeah,
Yeah, played there many times
yeah.
in the '90s. Yeah,
With who?
I played in a band called Trigger Happy,
Oh yeah,
and then I played another band called Red Fisher, based out of Winnipeg.
oh yeah.
And we played
Oh
Crocs and Rolls every time because there's nowhere else to play.
right,
Not even the Sault Ste. Marie at that point, there was nowhere to play.
right.
So you drive straight from Sudbury
Yeah.
to Thunder Bay.
So we didn't even play Sudbury. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Toronto to Crocs and Rolls.
The Townhouse was the Sudbury, was the place in
Oh
Sudbury.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, do you remember when you came in to record Beer Graffiti Walls for Hallucigenia? Do you remember how that went down?
Uh, yeah, Ron gave me a sheet of paper, and I I did my bit for Lowest of the Low.
Did you
I would think I'm bona fide member now.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's all it takes.
yeah.
But do you remember? Do you remember like how that idea of seeing a band like the Low and sort of what were your sort of like first reaction of that band? Because you said earlier like they looked like a bunch of guys that were just like pals and hanging out. But inner turmoil, there was a lot of inner turmoil in that band.
I was luckily not privy to that turmoil.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hung out with Ron, so
yeah.
and John, the uh,
Ro-
the awesome road manager. Yeah,
I've known him for 30 plus years. He's a
really.
beautiful man.
What's he doing?
He's kind of retired. He bought some property in northern Ontario, and he's
How does a roadie buy property?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I didn't
Oh,
ask.
I've probably got a normal job.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he was working. I mean, he was actively working as local crew stuff, and then pandemic hit, and a lot of people changed their careers. A lot of people, like you know, yeah.
What was he working on before?
He's doing like crew chiefing at the amphitheater,
Oh yeah,
Hamilton Amphitheater. He was like
there you go.
head chief guy. Um, I
That's great for all the techies, but this whole pandemic's been brutal for. I'm sure it didn't matter to me because I could never get jobs, but in music. But to be a continuing concert performer, I can't imagine how bad it must have been. Is.
really bad. Um, um, do you remember the Toronto scene in the 90s? Do you remember how it maybe differed from Vancouver in a way, or do you have any reflections of that?
We actually lived in Toronto for after Young Canadians blew up. We took a station wagon there and played all across the country and ended up there living for a couple of weeks and then our car blew up. We lived in a garage station there, met a few friends, but we just couldn't meet anyone. I don't know why. Maybe it was our spritz and our language was different.
There was a divide in the scenes, definitely between coasts, for sure.
Well, yeah, there should have been
Yeah,
because it's a long, long way. Some of our best fans were in, believe it or not, Saskatoon, Regina,
yeah,
the smaller towns. They came out with no preconceived notions. They were just so enthusiastic and so happy to have you there. Yeah, it was the best part of the that whole period.
yeah. There was definitely a prairie scene, like
Yeah.
Winnipeg, Calgary, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, and all
Oh, in Winnipeg, my God. Uh,
like stretch marks and
yeah,
uh,
Stretch Marks met them and Richard Duguay and Personality
yeah,
Crisis. Yeah.
yeah. Now it's bands like
Uh,
Propagandy and there's other bands that sort of
Of
took the
course, yeah. We're talking decades here,
yeah,
my God.
yeah. Now, do you have any understand? When bands break up, I mean, you've probably been in a band breakup or one or two, but can you sort of reflect on how much people go through as a band to actually break up? I mean, there's a lot of emotion, a lot of luggage. For you, is it easy? Is it hard? Like,
Well, for me, being an asshole and a narcissist at the time was never difficult for me because I wanted to do my songs and I don't care who did them as long as they did them properly. I didn't give a shit. Of course, I wasted 3 years of my time by quitting Young Canadians and becoming a populero where there was too many cooks to make the broth in that band. Very good looking band, but I should have stuck with Young Canadians. One of my biggest regrets.
there's a lot. Any band that sort of has that luggage when they start a new band, starting all over again is never easy, and you basically
have to. If a band leaves or you leave the band, I've interviewed so many people who've started new bands, and they love it because it's all fresh, it's all new. You can do whatever you want. It's your world is your oyster. But when Ron left, he started the Rusty Nails.
Right.
Did you get into that stuff? Was that something you could?
Well, I could tell it was Ron. So Ron's a fine writer, so I had no problem with with the listening or the vibe. I don't care about uh, personal politics. None of that.
Um, so I guess
I
where?
just knew Ron better. I don't know why. Right?
No, yeah,
Yeah, because we're both the writers and the singers and sort of the keepers of the zeitgeist of your band. So
that's where the bond grew. Is there a bond? There has to be a bond.
I guess, yeah, we don't talk about music, or we didn't have to talk about music or, guitar talk or any of that crap. We talked about the politics of the day and what to do about it.
Well, that's important because that's exactly what Ron is. It still is today.
Yeah,
That type of person. The music part seems to be the vehicle to get the politics into people's brains.
yeah, if only it worked.
Works sometimes.
Yeah.
Not on a huge scale, but
Well, listen to this. Listen to Rage. If a Rage Against the Machine can't start a revolution, how the fuck can a little guy like me?
I think it takes a lot of people to sort of think the same. To obviously to if you speak truths that people understand, does it need to be a revolution? You know what I mean? Like, are you personally happy with making your life cleaner or more true or just, so to speak? Like, does that make you happy, or is it important for you to make a revolution? Like, is that big question? I guess.
Yeah, it was always more important for me to uh, see something pulled down and something better put up in its place. So always hoping for a revolution. Isn't that what every kid dreams of?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't.
No, I don't know either because kids are just like, where are, they should be frothing at the mouth, ripping this fucking old whore of a society down.
Yeah, yeah. Um, do you have any Ron Hawkins stories that you can share? Any?
Oh man, I probably missed the best ones. I think they tried to keep us separated because, I've heard of various adventures that I wasn't involved in. So maybe it was because I was with the love of my life at the time, Sherry. So she's a great bullshit detector. So, a waste of time at 4 in the morning is a waste of time at the 4 in the morning. So it's best to go back to bed with your loved one, I think, for, for all intensive purposes.
Yeah, I agree. Because that's the person you wake up with in the morning. Like, are you now I mean, honestly, we don't know each other personally, but has the relationship brought you around into a new way of thinking, with life, with future, with the past? Like,
No. My thinking now is that I'm fucking tired of living. There's going to be no improvement, and this so-called revolution not going to happen in my lifetime. So I'm sorry I won't be here. So if I'm not going to be here, you know, why suck down the medical establishment for whatever I'm going to need to stay on my feet or fix my spine? I mean, I should have been on the street from the word go, but such is life. I made a mistake. I'm not a great speaker. That's why I didn't go to politics.
no, no.
I'm a great. Leonard Cohen calls it sloganeering the simplicity of language into his songs, but it seems to be my forte. I like making slogans that will inspire people to, wreck the odd block of the odd bank or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that's I got my questions, but is there we can talk more. I got lots more time.
Oh, sure. That's going good.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
But how do we fit this in with Ron? I've lost touch with him over the years.
I I like I said, there's a parallel between your career or your life and his life.
Yeah.
That
Did he quit for a while like I did?
not really, but but his passion with his art is very similar that I feel to yours.
Yeah.
It's a it's a
He never totally gave up.
no, he never gave up. But I mean, honestly, just the whole you're you. You're not going to be anybody else. Ron's always going to be Ron.
Yeah.
That's the honesty of people that I think I like. I like. I do this podcast and I meet people, and if I'm doing 2 minutes of a conversation with a guy, and the guy I can smell the bullshit, I'm like, just talk your talk and this. But I feel like when I speak to real people, it really does affect me. Like I'm like, holy shit, there's people out there who are like 100% involved in making change. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, I wish I was, but I'm really not. I mean, I give my support to the natives fighting Line 3, finding out more about our genocide here, as if everybody doesn't know now, and just trying to bring attention to what we've done and what are we going to do about it. Canada isn't even a country. To find that out, they put they buried fucking children.
and you think that what makes it tragic is that
And then and again, that wasn't even an issue in this election.
no,
It just disappeared
yeah.
again.
Well, what makes it tragic is that Americans ran Native people off the sides of cliffs. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like with and
In
genocide.
California, they had bounties.
Really, like,
Yeah.
but at least and you feel like, well, Canada, up until in my teenage life was like, well, Canada is not that. So
Right.
you're like,
Yeah.
okay, we've
Yeah.
probably broken some treaties, a lot of treaties. I played in a band with a guy who took Native Studies in university. With his job would be, once his job's complete, he doesn't need a job anymore. Like that's part of
Right.
his training. I thought, well, I know we've broken treaties. Just look at Winnipeg, with the river, the forts, the Assiniboine
Yeah.
and the Red.
Yeah.
There's a huge broken treaty. They built a parliament building right on
Yeah.
their sacred land. But to actually go that much further and to find out it's that much more terrifying. But if it was America, you'd be like, yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Americans are waking up too now. There's a woman now, an indigenous woman, Deborah Howlands from Navajo, Arizona, and she's investigating all the missing and murdered women down there now.
Yeah.
So things are known. Depends how much they're so fucked, those right-wing idiots.
Yeah, it couldn't be more polarizing, huh?
Yeah, we won. We won the battle. You won the battle, but you signed the papers too for treaties.
So, do you have any sort of comments to the legacy of Lois and Low? Is this something that maybe you can either parlay together now, or something that you've thought, like where they made an impact and what their legacy will be? Loaded question.
Shit. No, just. Did I say just no? No. No, they're one of the few bands that kept intelligence alive in in the music that they made. You know, always intelligent, always poetics, always going for broke if necessary, and that's the way you do it. If you want a legacy, if that's the question, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's a difference between. Ron's always said this: is his career is a 50% failure and a 50% success story.
Well, good for him. Mine's about 90-10.
You never know. You got the Order of Canada. That's not saying much. That's
Mhm.
not that. Or how do you feel about that? I mean, this has nothing to do with the, but that's a pretty important thing to be bestowed to you.
Yeah, my wife Sherry reminded me of that the other night. She said, "No one else has won this fucking thing, Art. This is pretty amazing. You should enjoy it." um, the very fact that you won the Order of Canada, but right now I don't believe in Canada, so. But I've asked Indigenous acquaintances what I should do about it. I was going to burn it because this all came about right when all the buried children were found. So, and the pandemic. So, they advised against it, and until further notice.
That's pretty. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because.
So, because they can use it.
Yeah.
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 To embarrass people, I guess.
Yeah. Well, even the Beatles gave theirs back, right? The British.
Yeah.
Same idea, right? It's
Yeah.
almost the same type of.
It is. Yeah. It's from royalty.
Yeah. Yeah.
From royalty. Sword.
Yeah.
Sword feeling on the
If you do
shoulder.
that, I deknight you, sir.
Yeah.
Art Bergmann.
Yeah. Crazy.
Did you know it was coming, or did it come out of left field? Like.
That came out of left field. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thank God. Thank God. Yeah.
Because even people, when people are trying to win Oscars and stuff, they have to do a little political work to get the Oscars. I thought maybe somebody's working in the background for you or somebody, but yeah,
I don't know. Apparently, it takes quite a team.
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, like, congratulations. I have to. It's a very, to me, it feels like recognition, even though it might be misguided, but it's still recognition on something of a
Yeah.
lifetime of worth, and not a lot of people have that.
Yeah. This is recognition for what I consider my best work, which is my lyricism. So.
Yeah, and the new record is the strongest work, in my opinion,
Yeah.
in years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something to be proud of. Are you a Bruce Springsteen fan? I know you're probably not, but
Here and there.
he put a new record out last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah, yeah,
I like his quieter stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
He did an E Street Band album, live
Yeah.
off the floor, at his studio, and it's called Letter to You, and it's really good. I don't know what my mom's gonna do with all this, but but it's a really good record. It feels good.
Yeah.
I like the stuff that feels good.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
Well, man, I think we should just revel in this beauty we have here.
Sure.
This is one of the best shots I've ever seen. So it's just beautiful.
How's your wide angle?
It's wide. I got a little bit over there, and I'm cutting it right at the edge of that barn.
And then you can cut in and out.
Go in
Yeah.
and
Oh
out.
yeah.
And I got you in the right in the middle, but then there's the thirds, the law of thirds when you're
Yeah. Yeah.
I read about it, where you place the object, so then it gives perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the guy on top there?
This is so it's brighter, so I can actually see, because this little screen down here is quite
Yeah.
dim. So I got a brighter screen that I can see. Yeah. But You know, if you ever want to make music around here, I got a whole rig that fits in my car. I'd love to come out and do some recording one day.
Really?
You ever write songs? I have a little portable rig, sets up all day long.
Wow.
Yeah, all day. Make one of these little houses, one of these recording studios.
Yeah. Yeah, but you live in Ontario.
I come out.
Oh, wow.
I'm stupid that way. I'll do it.
For sure. I was thinking before this place goes, man, we've got to have a little shindig out here, you know?
Some music, live music.
Yeah.
Yeah. Will you let me know? I'll be out here. No problem.
Yeah.
It's,
If the pandemic ever ends.
just trying to think how many hours it takes to get here. 20. It's about
No,
38 hours. Driving.
8 hours.
38.
38
Drive
driving.
from Toronto. 25 to Winnipeg and 14 here, something like that. To Winnipeg.
Oh, that's the brutal one over the lakes, hey?
Yeah. I flew over it. It was like, wow, this is yeah. Well, that's awesome. I'm gonna hit stop. And then,
What?